And for a while at least, the field behind could only follow. Delgado knows that Cubino can't win the Tour for the moment. He's content to follow. And while Hampsten struggles, his teammate Raul Alcala seems content. The Col du Tourmalet has discovered at last a new champion of its slopes. And below, Cubino blazes a lone trail towards the summit. The Spanish Basque flag waves proudly. It's a long time since the Spanish riders have had such a good Tour de France. And the natural barriers of the Pyrenees haven't stopped the Spaniards crossing in their thousands to cheer Cubino up the steep mountain. Behind, Gert Ternies on the left and Lucio Herrera maintain the chase. There's still hope yet with the finish climb to come. Steven Ruck's here, Delgado on the far side in yellow, and at the back, Andy Hampsten. The race has still to make its final selection. But for Cubino, the climb at least was his. While behind, a select band of riders are led by Rucks, but not for long as Pedro Delgado moves to the front. A reminder that he is the man in charge of this year's Tour de France. And with an acceleration that belies the slopes of the mountain, Delgado makes his point again. Steven Rucks is third, and only a handful of men are together for their final destiny today, Luz Ardiden. And so on the dangerous descent, Delgado is in no hurry. Too many riders have crashed badly during the 38 times the mountain has been crossed since 1927. So he's made his point. Now he rides sensibly on, allowing the others to rejoin him for the last mountain.
28 minutes back, Jens Vegerby was struggling at the bottom of the mountain the leaders had already climbed, the Tourmalet. Although this 25-year-old Dane had spent a career as a domestique, a mere water carrier for the stars, he was now showing as much courage as anyone who has ever ridden a bike. For as long as this race has been held, the French have helped stragglers. They simply don't allow a rider to quit, as long as he has the strength and will to push the pedals. Bleeding badly from the hip and feeling the effects of dehydration, Vegerby continued to fight the hill. "10 miles ahead, the leaders sped on along the perilous descent and breakneck speeds. For them, it's still a race against time. For Jens Vegerby, now 28 minutes back and losing time, it would take a supreme effort and a lot of help just to finish. Still ahead, the most demanding mountain of them all, Luz Ardiden.
Steven Ruck's time for a friendly word to race leader Pedro Delgado, and the American Andy Hampsten also still with them. This last day in the Pyrenees from Saint-Giron is a row of shark's teeth. Already completed 111 miles of cruel day. But there the finish at Luz Ardiden is still to come. The race has covered 1,438 miles and 32 have abandoned before the hardest day in the Pyrenees. Earlier on this day of decision, Jean-Francois Bernard had given up at Luchon. Now, with only Luz Ardiden to come, Charlie Motte, the third French favourite, has decided to abandon. The saddest thing to happen in the Tour de France is when your number is removed. The campaign is over, the Tour is over. But when you are half an hour behind, you have little choice. Charlie Motte wore the yellow jersey of leader twice last year. But the race is no respecter of reputation. You're only as good as now. The Tour de France has found new conquerors, and the small group that assembled at the base of Luz Ardiden included all of the riders who have shaped the race this year, most notably the man who has controlled it, Pedro Delgado of Spain. He had little to fear from Lordolino Cubino, who is now over 7 minutes ahead on this day. Cubino was a surprise leader of the Tour of Spain, and he eventually finished 4th overall. Now he was surprising again. Started the day 23 minutes behind Delgado. He was no threat. And neither anymore was Andy Hampsten. He could not win this Tour now. Led by Lucio Herrera, the select group slowly reduced the lead of Cubino, but not fast enough to deny him his first ever victory in the stage of the Tour de France. Behind him, Cubino was being chased by the top 7 riders in the race overall. They'd separated themselves from the rest of the Tour de France. As Cubino approached the finish, I wonder if he remembered the last Spanish winner here in 1985. It was Pedro Delgado, the overall leader of the race today. In 3 years' time, will it be Lordolino Cubino? Andy Hampsten had suffered terribly on this last climb, and he had lost over 12 minutes. The Tour was again, for him, a dream. Not so for Pedro Delgado, who bided his time while another Spanish rider had stolen the show. Now it was his turn, as again he turned on the power from the legs of the world's greatest climber. He left the best of the rest behind, as if they were standing still. We find to the end, Andy Hampsten has never enjoyed the climb of Luz Ardiden. They said this Tour de France, being so short, would also be too easy. They were wrong.
Pedro Delgado had once again dominated the favorites and continued his assault on this year's Tour de France. With his performance on this day, he had added almost another minute to his lead, an emphasis to what many had believed before this stage even began, that only disaster could now keep him from victory in